Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hidden History with Frank Strickland. I bet you thought Rosa Parks was the first person to say no on a segregated bus. Most people do. Her name is synonymous with the spark that ignited a movement. But history, like life, often has layers. And sometimes, the very first spark is held by hands we rarely see. It was March 2nd, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama. A bustling afternoon, a city bus, like so many others, was making its rounds, full of people heading home. Among them was a 15-year-old high school student. She was a good student, a member of the NAACP Youth Council, and she'd been studying the civil rights movement in school. This young woman boarded the Highland Gardens bus, found a seat near an emergency exit in the middle row, and settled in. Now, back then, if a white person was standing and all the white seats in the front were full, any black person in a nearby seat was expected to get up, move to the back, and stand. Well, a white woman got on, and soon she was standing in the front. The bus driver, Robert W. Cleary, looked back and commanded our young student and 3 other black women in her row to move. The other 3 moved, but then a pregnant black woman, Ruth Hamilton, got on and sat next to our student. The driver again demanded they move. Mrs. Hamilton refused, stating she'd paid her fare and didn't feel like standing. And then, our young student spoke. Quote, "So, I told him I was not going to get up either." The driver threatened to call a policeman. He did. Police arrived, moved the pregnant woman, but our student still refused. She was thinking about a school paper she had written that day, about the injustice of not being allowed to try on clothes in department stores. She later recalled, "If she sat down in the same row as me, it meant I was as good as her." A classmate who was there remembered her yelling, "It's my constitutional right." She felt the hands of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth pushing down on her shoulders, keeping her stuck to her seat. She was handcuffed, arrested, forcibly removed from that bus, shouting that her constitutional rights were being violated. She was charged with disturbing the peace, violating segregation laws, and even battering a police officer, a charge her classmates said was false. Her case went to juvenile court. While 2 charges were eventually dropped on appeal, the conviction for assaulting a police officer was upheld. 9 months later, Rosa Parks would make her famous stand. But this young woman, this teenager, had made hers first. So why don't we know her name? Well, the leaders of the civil rights movement at the time had a difficult decision to make. They needed a perfect symbol. Our young student was a teenager, and during the proceedings, she became pregnant and was unmarried. As Rosa Parks herself later acknowledged, quote, "If the white press got a hold of that information, they would have had a field day. They'd call her a bad girl, and her case wouldn't have a chance." Civil rights campaigners dropped her case, believing she wouldn't be an appealing protester. Yet her actions were anything but insignificant. She was one of 4 plaintiffs in the first federal court case, Browder v. Gale, filed to challenge bus segregation in Montgomery. On June 13, 1956, the judges determined that the state and local laws requiring bus segregation in Alabama were unconstitutional. The Supreme Court upheld that ruling later that year, leading to the end of bus segregation. She moved to New York City in 1958, finding it difficult to keep work in Montgomery after her involvement in the case. She worked as a nurse's aide for 35 years, retiring in 2004. She's been honored in recent years, with March 2nd being named after her in Montgomery. Her juvenile record was expunged in 2021, with the district attorney stating, "Her actions back in March of 1955 were conscientious, not criminal, inspired, not illegal. They should have led to praise and not prosecution." And now you know, the incredible and often overlooked backstory of the true pioneer who refused to give up her bus seat months before Rosa Parks, and her name is Claudette Colvin.